Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
But made it back. Riotous night in Austin. We're going to work with sword technique this morning, and we'll do some unarmed techniques this afternoon. What we were thinking is sword takes a lot of room because it's a large scale tool to use, so maybe Sunday morning we might be able to go out and use some of the grass area for the training. Sunday morning there are not as many people here, so we can do that, and then we'll work the unarmed aspects later on. Historically, the Japanese sword for the warrior class hundreds of years ago was considered the close range weapon. Okay, so sword was a close range. There was a medium range, which was longer, a long pole with a blade on the end of it, either a spear or a halberd or something like that. It was the medium range weapon. And long range was a bow and arrow. And so as a minimum, any warrior would want to be trained in the use of those three tools. So you'd have a close range, medium, and long range. And if you think about modern day situation, somebody goes into the military, probably, I haven't been trained in the American military, but probably in the basic training there's something that relates to that. Everybody learns to fire a rifle, I would imagine, and probably have some handgun things, and then you might have such things as mortars or grenades or whatever, and that's just kind of a standard thing. Now some people may have specialties later on where they have ultra long range. All right, you push this button and the rocket goes over and blows up a city somewhere. How much time, those of you that have spent a lot of time in the modern military, how much time did you spend on just, hands to neck, how to choke somebody, or hand-to-hand fighting, punching, knife fighting, whole lots, right?
8 hours.
Never saw it.
Yeah. Anybody know from your own experience how much time what we might call the elite commando type units, SEALs or Delta Force or whatever, how much time those people spend in formal government run, hand-to-hand combat?
My little brother was a ranger. They used to put 2 hours a day.
2 hours a day? This is the first time I've ever heard that. I'm amazed, okay?
And it was pretty much, I don't know if it was all formal, like it might have been, one day it was one of the rangers that did it, and the next day it might have been somebody else.
Anybody else have any experience with that? Elite type units, how much time?
They didn't spend that much time. I only spent more time there, but
What was your unit? What were you?
I was in Ranger for a little bit, but they only spent maybe 3 or 4 hours the whole time I was there.
Okay. Anybody else have Kelly?
The SFQ course, we spend about an hour a day together, and then each individual hand-to-hand or knife training is done on a team basis. Most of the teams really didn't hear much about it. Delta's a little different in that they have the operator course that has some formal training in both, but most of them are just not that interested in it. Same thing I found in going through various SWAT schools. Very little.
Yeah. This has been my experience in talking to people who've done that, like Dr. Hill or some of the others. Again, I can't speak from direct experience, but generally there's not a whole lot of attention paid to that. Interesting, huh? Well, why are we even talking about this? Well, because it shows, right, in the samurai training and the ancient warrior training as well as in modern day, why do you think they don't spend much time? Comic book mentality, okay, comic book idea of what a Delta Force commando, you've all seen the Chuck Norris movies, okay. Wouldn't you think they'd spend lots and lots of time learning how to do those kind of things? Sneak through the walls and pop out, strangle the hostage taker and free those. Wouldn't you think, just from watching TV, they spend a lot of time doing that? Why do you, it's not reality. Well, absolutely. Why do you think they don't spend too much time doing that? Firearms, okay, they learn to use weapons. Why else? Takes too much time.
You gotta get the job done with the least amount of fuss possible. So a silencer around the heart is all the stuff will be less risky than trying to grab something.
Oh yeah, we've got all of these considerations, technology advances, and we're just there to get the job done. We're not doing a movie here. In fact, if I were working in one of those units, honest, never had those kind of things. You know, Steven Seagal tied to a chair with piano wire, and they're injecting him with chemicals, and he's like the day that they attacked the CIA. I don't think I want to have that happen. I ran into it John's way. Okay, another day, another bullet. Oh, no. Can you handle that oppressive regime? Okay, what do we do now? Let's look out beer. I think I would like that. Okay. Yeah, Will.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a former police officer in New York City, and he was there for 14 years and never drew his gun out of his holster once. All in New York City, even. Now, we tend to think high crime, you know, and the movies portray the detective or the police officer always shoots 3 bad guys in half an hour on TV every night. But when you realize most officers never draw their revolver in 14, 15, 20 years long than never.
Yeah, and fist fights, how many of those? I think what it boils down to, and this is going to lead us to what we're going to train with this morning, is that statistically, people that aren't shooting the bad guys or wrestling the terrorists, or statistically they watch and they see, okay, how much results do we get from long-range firearms? How much do we get in terms of results from mortar fire? How much do we get? And somewhere on the list is stabbing people to death with a knife. Somewhere on the list is punching them into unconsciousness. And in the history of warfare, in the modern age, those had little teeny percentages of results, and the guns and the other things had bigger percentage. So whoever's arranging the training says it's probably more intelligent to spend more time teaching these people how to shoot than how to strangle one another to death in a creek bed or whatever, despite what Slice Alone will show you, or what else. Same thing back in the ancient days. A lot of people are surprised when they find out how little attention was paid in the ancient Japanese warrior class to hand-to-hand fighting. This was the close-range weapon. Now, a lot of people in martial arts today think of this as long-range. This was the close-range weapon. And you'll see in some of the techniques we're going to do in here this morning that it doesn't look like what you might see in a Shokosugi movie or some of these things where it's treated as a long-range weapon. Okay, have you seen that Shokosugi ninja movie on HBO? A lot of you haven't. Please. They'll show, John, you got that's another clever ninja trick. You know, you get the other guy to have a wooden one and you're in the metal one. We're told that Miyamoto Musashi used his wooden one to be the metal one anyway. Here we're going to imitate a movie ninja sword fight. Okay, so we're up here and we're way apart, and from about here we both swing our swords. Okay, and then at this point, some guy in the computer lab puts some little spark things in the guy in the sound lab
You have
goes,
to scream.
Yeah, he drops a drawer full of spoons, and you hear this noise, and then this way, and now stop and look at reality. Why would I throw my blade into action from here? There's just no, even if he gave up, put his throat out. I can't get him. I can't get him. No, if I'm going to cut him, I need to be about here. And not even here, not even there. I need to be way up. This is why this is a close-range weapon. I've got to hit in such a way that I project through. This does not have an edge, I already checked. Well, after the story yesterday, I hit and project through with this cut. So you've got to have some room behind the blade for it to be effective cutting in there. It's a close-range weapon. But in the movies, it looks long-range. Well, why is that? Well, you said the movies are unreal. Also, movies, they got the same accountants running the movies as they do running the army, okay? Where they're just looking at results, and that's what people think a sword fight looks like, and that's what brings them in, so that's what they keep turning out. They never hire, in the movies, they never hire the people who really know what it's like in terms of sword fighting or authentic martial art fighting. That's my experience from not being hired. So the first thing we want to mention with this, as we start in here today, is distancing is crucial. Distancing is key to use of this. Okay? Now, let me say this real fast, and we'll say it and we'll drop it. As I mentioned yesterday, you don't always need technique. You don't always need technique to make this work. In fact, sometimes the lack of technique may be of value. If John's a good swordsman, well, let's say a pretty good swordsman, and he's there, and I don't know anything about sword fighting. So on the video, if you're watching this later on, I want to say I'm deliberately doing this crazy. I got my hands backwards. I've got it here like this. And if I just come in and do this sort of stuff, you wiggle that around. It's very difficult to deal with. Very difficult to deal with. In fact, there's a story that Grandmaster Hatsumi told about grabbing a sword out of the air when Takamatsu Sensei, his teacher, was cutting at him with it. And he even told in this conversation that ended up in a book, I could grab the sword probably because Takamatsu Sensei was so good as a swordsman, meaning that it was an authentic technique, and so you knew where it was and you could grab the blade this way, whereas a poor swordsman, it's hard to grab it because it's all over there. Okay, that said, let's look at some authentic technique with it. First one is a distancing exercise, just to get us used to it. Right hand is on the sword, high, left hand is low, whether you're right or left-handed. Okay, in ancient Japan, it was illegal to be right-handed. Yeah, so that handled that right away. Everybody was left-handed. Everybody wore the sword on the left and held it with the right. It was the ultimate military dictatorship in the history of the world, as far as I'm concerned. They even told you how many stitches were supposed to be in the kimono sleeve, how many millimeters. They didn't use millimeters, but they had their measurement. The family crest had to be, everything was so regulated that you never had time to even think about a revolution there, right? So it's very well done. So everybody was right-handed. Got it here. What I usually suggest, for those of you that haven't used a sword before, there's a little raised area over here with a little carving, menuki, and you can grip this with your lower fingers, and that will put your hand in a proper relationship to this sword guard here. This guard is not that you're hiding behind it to protect against his sword so much as protecting against your hand sliding down your own sword when you hit. Okay, because the blade hits and slides through, and there's a dynamic where your hand wants to go forward, which you won't experience in here because you'll have wooden swords and you're not actually biting into tissue with it. Okay, so it gives you a space here, and at the bottom, the further down your hand can go, I even cheat it down to here, the more leverage you're going to have with this. And when you're trying to cut through thin armor or whatever, leverage is what you needed on that. Okay, I got a martial art catalog the other day from a company, and they've got some poor guy on there. Obviously, he's never seen a sword in his life, but he's in a gi, you know, and they wanted him to pose with this thing. He's got his left hand up here, this like sort of like he's trying to choke a garter snake, you know. He's got this thing up here like that, looking, you know, real preposterous. And so I'm glad they didn't hand him a handgun. He probably would have grabbed the barrel and threatened to beat you with the butt of this thing, aiming it at his crotch or something. Might as well, you know, one sword like this. Now, here's what happens to, all right, now I'm putting all this out because as soon as we go outside, I don't have to keep bringing everybody back. Remember, there's going to be a tendency for you as an American to end up doing this, okay, without thinking. You'll start this way, oh yeah, I remember, here's the harping about fingers here, and then here's the other menuki, okay, fingers here at the bottom, and you'll start out like that, and after a couple of moves, you'll tend to go like this, right, as an American, you just will. Okay? Because that's what Coach told you made the home run when you were in the Little League in 3rd grade, you know, and you did that a whole lot more than you fought with a sword early in your life, and so that habit is going to pop up. So just remember that. Okay? Remember that. My suggestion is whenever you end up with this hand like this, just laugh, okay? Chuckle a little bit. Well, some people swear at themselves. Oh, dang it, I wish I remembered that. Well, I'm no good. Your subconscious doesn't need to hear that. Just laugh. Oh, cute. There we go. And then go back to this. Well, have you ever heard people swear at themselves in the dojo? Yeah. Well, what is that all about? You know? Well, if I swear at me and criticize me roughly before the teacher has a chance to, then he'll maybe not think he has to yell at me and I won't get yelled at. Subconscious still got yelled at on that deal, so just kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, hey, that's what he said. Right here, and kind of grin, and you get right back into serious training. It'll take a while if you haven't used a sword. It'll take a while to break that home run habit. You have to align the wrists differently from a home run. All right, so there we go. So remember that. A couple of fingers here. Traditionally in Japanese games, they'll put a little egg right there and show you that you ought to be able to put an egg in there to make that distance. I just say if the first knuckle of your extended front finger hits the tsuba there, that's about a good way to judge that. Then you fold the finger back for fighting. Okay, you judged it there. Here's the first exercise. This is a very easy look, simple looking exercise. Yeah, but it's maybe harder to do than we might think. John, why don't you have your sword up in Daijodan no Kamae? I'm up here in Daijodan no Kamae. A lot of discussion about what this proper position is, okay? Sometimes you see in books, people have the sword down here like this. Okay, sometimes you see them almost putting them in their belt. Here's the way I was taught, and I find it most efficient to do. 45-degree angle up. Because from 45 degree, when I go to cut from here, everything is forward motion. Everything is forward motion with that. If I'm a little further down, I've got to bring it up in order to get it to go over, and it gives him more chance to see what I'm doing. And if it's up here so far, then there's not enough, there's not enough wallop to really stop anything in there. So 45 degree, and here's your center line. You just take it right up the center line. You don't want it like this up here, or like that, where you have to somehow straighten it as it goes, or you end up banging the surface of the sword rather than the edge. All this stuff you're going to have to help each other out with. What I did when I was first starting to learn this was I did a lot with mirrors. I would take a kamae and I would look in the mirror, and if it was over like that, I'd real quick correct it. You know, if it was down here like this, I could correct it. You're going to have to help each other out. And my warning is it can be annoying. It can be annoying. John, put your sword up, Daijodan, a little bit off, a little bit off. I'll go, okay, I need to straighten it up more. Great, now I'm helping him, but all he sees and hears is me always criticizing him. So it can be annoying when you work with each other, so give that ego up and just say, thank you for assisting me on that. I'm here, and John, I'm ready to attack him, and all of a sudden he interrupts by telling me that my sword is wrong. Oh, okay, great, thank you. All right, I acknowledge now I'm better because of that. So watch out, it's a little ego that you gotta make sure that your desire to be excellent gets precedent over your desire to be right, all right? So watch out for ego. And our first movement is from here to move forward. Sword, body, legs. I'm going to aim for the outermost edge of this connector motor tendon here. I just want to cut his wrist right here this way, because that's closest target. I can stay far enough back there. Oh, just that last little bit right there is what I'm going to cut for, okay, on our first exercise. We're going to do this 2 times. First time, what I want to do is, as we move laterally in and out, here's my sword over here, all of a sudden John gives me a little hand indicator as to helping me get my sword right. Oh, okay, how about like this? Okay, good. Okay, now we're here, so I'm ready. Okay, he's got me straight down. Well, first time, I'm going to just do it perfectly, okay? Then we pull back. Second time I do it, I'm going to do it just perfectly. And my training partner, to learn his, is going to pull his hand back just a minimal amount so that I just slice through the air. Right? He's looking right at me there. Now again, this looks like such a baby exercise, but you'll find it's quite challenging if you're coming at my wrist. See, if I get out of the way like this, then I have to run back in to get him, and he's already gotten me deflected. So I've got to stay close. It's like punching. If I'm being punched, and I didn't have this, well, this is my defense against the punch. That's okay as long as I don't intend to do anything back to him. Otherwise, I've got to run back in here, hit him. He won't let me do that. If he's punching me here, whoop, and I go like that, now I've got the range to do something about it. And it's the same with our sword. Okay, John, why don't you cut at my wrist? So now I get a chance to see right where I'm vulnerable. Okay, he does that again. And then I come down right over his wrist. So it's a very simple exercise. But that's what we want to start with, to get used to all of this stuff here. Because what we're going to do then is we're going to start wrestling around with each other, even though swords are flying through the air. So this is our first. Watch this again. First is the test. Yeah, now I can see from where he is in his legs. Now I know where vulnerability lies. Okay, good. Now he does that again. From back here, I just missed it. I want to position myself so that I'm cutting down on his wrist. And you'll have to play with that. Sometimes it means pulling this foot back. Sometimes if I go too far here, it means pushing this foot forward. But the idea is going right through. Come down pretty hard and realistic on that. Boom. I'm cutting right over to hit the forearm with that. A lot of times, before you get outside, a lot of times people ask, yeah, but aren't you running into his sword? Because his sword is there. Yes, if you're doing it slow motion. I'll come at you, you just move back out of the way. If I'm coming slow motion and he starts to come and get me, it looks like that would happen. But think about it, I'm in a fight. I'm trying to take this guy's hand off real fast so I can get to his 18 buddies that are over there, my crew. So here we are. I move in. Again, you're going to jump. No, I'll have you get out of the way. But that's good. You can see how it works. It's spontaneous. Yeah, I'm coming in here. Here's how I'm really going to be trying to cut a person's arm off, right? Wham! And there it is. It takes me a minute from that recoil to come back, and that's when he's cutting. That's why it works. Do it slow. You'll feel vulnerable. Do it realistically. There it is. It's like handgun stuff. You know, if I'm a wooden one and I go bang, bang, I can bang all I want right there. But if I have a real one here, and it gets knocked off of the trajectory, and it goes bang, boom, and I got to lower it and put it back in there. That second of realistically putting it back in there is when we'll move the sword. Okay, everybody got our exercise, ready to do that? Okay, we're moving in, we're starting to move in. I want to get control of this fight as quickly as I can, because he's always going to have backup. He's always going to have backup, so I don't have time to do a fencing match with him. So we start from here, up, and as I move laterally, lateral is a neat way to sneak in on somebody. So I can move over here, and it looks like I'm going sideways, but can you see I'm really cutting down the distance? If I just do this, he knows what's going on. Okay, so you can kind of cheat with that laterally. And as I'm lateraling here, he decides, this isn't working. He comes and gets me. Okay, so that's how the fight begins. I'm going to knock his sword off the mark. Just bang it with the side of mine, not the edge like they do in the movie. Side. And from there, I can go on in with my next move. Get ready. Moving this aside and going in. But what we're going to do, and I want you to practice that. Everybody see it? Let's do it one more time from the other side. We'll give you 3 sequences on this. 1, as he cuts down, I put my sword out as my body goes over, and now you can see we're all set to shove the edge right in. So this is a very basic movement. This comes in, it's right on target, okay? So what you do is move the target like we were doing and cut at the same time. Coming in here. Step 1. Step 2, all right? As soon as he finds his sword falling off of where it wants to be, he readjusts and sets it back in. There it is, a cross cut. Okay? So that's going to be step 2. Now before I can cut to his throat, his sword that's falling over here, he's going to readjust it and attack in from there. Let's do it very slowly. See, I'm off the mark with my target. So we're practicing. And as I'm off the mark, I'm adjusting to hit. As I start to go in, yeah, he's cutting right in that way. Now he'll tighten his moves up to where it almost becomes one movement. Okay, watch this. There it is. That's step 2 on this. There's a step 3 where we're going to counter it. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you right now. We'll have you do those 3, and then we'll finish the kata in a moment. From here, as he cuts across, what I want to do is move with it. Move with it. I'm moving. As he continues to cut through me, I'm just moving. Okay, I've got my arm along his arm. My hand comes to rest here. Okay, if you remember that, don't grab the hand and put your arm down because you might misgrab. Let's do it from the other angle. Moving with it here. I'm just covering his hand. Okay, here we go. Because from here, as he continues on, I'll just chop his fingers off. I'm just gonna lower this one by one. That's why we're not grabbing here. Chop them all off. Oh, there's 8 down there.
That's my ring.
Yeah, so I'm going to chop his fingers off as I go from there. Super slow motion. So you can remember, because I'll have you doing this. Chopping the fingers as he comes around. Now it won't slide, because they're going to have this sword guard. So that just holds the blade in position so you can chop better. And it's not chopping like a carrot on a board, although that would work. It's a slide, slicing a cucumber as opposed to julienne cut here. Yeah. As we go in from there. And now that's taken his ability to control this sword away, but he's still in the fight. Who knows? If he's mad enough, he may let go with his wounded right hand and cut at me with his left. Yeah, it's possible. So as soon as I chopped this off, I make sure that I jam so he can't get me with that left. I can use this for my leverage to cut through anything that would be protecting his throat. And back around. So here's our whole concept. And what I'd like you to do is practice the steps. First is knocking this offline and being right in there where you can see how that would work. Second, knocking this offline, and there's that middle cut. And let this work so you can see this is what this person's going to do. And it works. It does work. It's a good technique. And we're countering it on number 3. Knocking this offline and just slicing as I go. Slicing as I go. So you just put your arm. Little move. This doesn't have to be a big hacking thing. Little move. You can even put the sword on there, find it, and then do something like that. It'd be fine. And that slicing there. Use the back of your arm to guide this right into place. You don't have to look at it. You're looking for the rest of his friends. Cut here. Cut here. As you move. You gonna remember that routine? You'd like to think about this damaging end. The whole arm can damage, but this is the closest end to them. Keep this close to them as much as possible. Okay, John, why don't you grab the wooden one? Let me show you how this technique, this is going to look pretty good, but it's going to be way off because this forgets to stay near the person. All right, so here's how not to do it. Although you might be able to fool somebody and might be able to make it look pretty good by doing it this way. Same technique. Okay. Now what was happening is this was all over the place. Now watch the technique. And this is a little closer to where I really feel danger. Okay. And so it starts to look a little bit more realistic. Okay, can you see here how close it is to him? It's not over here. It's very close to him. This comes in. From here I just pull down. It just goes this couple of inches. My arm now levers, so if John comes around and gets me with the sword there, arm is levered. If I need to, this is always, there's that grab we were talking about, always close to him. So bear in mind, keep that close to him as well. Maybe the same could be done with a handgun or a rifle or something like that. Where it's always on this person. Whatever I do, whatever I'm doing, I want that muzzle always to be aiming at him. Whatever I'm doing, I'm not going to do this. You have to re-aim. It's the same with the sword. Keep that on. Okay, that's a technique. Pretty wild, and probably wouldn't go that far in a real fight. We've already cut them at that point, but we always go beyond. We always go beyond the techniques. When I first went to Nova City and trained with Dr. Hatsumi, I was surprised and somewhat dismayed that every unarmed fighting technique we did, whether it was punching, kicking, and throwing, and it always ended up with me on the ground in a very horrible, uncomfortable position. They always took it all the way to the ground. And that was just a part of the training. Yeah, that's it. You take it to the ground. Whereas what I had been doing before, we might hit a couple times, and assume, of course, now they're damaged and knocked out, they'll fall to the ground. Okay? If any of you ever had the experience of hitting a person full blast with one of your best shots and they didn't go down, I mean, maybe in a real self-defense thing, I unfortunately had that experience. Hit them real hard, they should have gone down. They were just so mad or drunk or whatever, they didn't go down. I had to grab them by the clothes and start putting them into bicycle racks and all kinds of crude stuff. I didn't know he was hurt. Didn't know he was, yeah, so you make sure they go all the way to the ground, and it's the same with this. It's way over. Okay, let's do this. We now have these swords sheathed, so we're going to work on a couple of techniques against drawing the sword. And most of you don't have these sort of scabbards, so you can imitate it with the wooden one here. Again, very talk real fast so we can do this high on the side of the sword here works
sword is angled as you're looking out this way here. And so that you can feel the butt of a pistol in the holster that way. You don't have to look, find it, unsnap it, and get it out. You can do all that while looking. Same thing here. I want to get this angle. This way, John, if you've got a sword already out or whatever. From here where a person is threatening me, I can get this already out where it's ready to cut right away. And a couple of the tricks I want you to remember is, if you think about pulling the scabbard off the blade, it'll speed you up a lot more. If you pull the blade out of the scabbard, sort of like, you know, General Custer going into battle or whatever, cavalry sword, that's not as effective or efficient as moving this forward and pulling this off the blade. I've got my ability to move right in from there. And this wasn't a secret. This was a fairly standard way of teaching it in the ancient days, to pull this back as you were pushing this sword forward, here, bring it around to where this matches the lifeline. You can support it with your forearm if you want, and move into a cutting technique from there. So that, and the same thing, putting it away so the scabbard goes out, and then it's back in here. That just reduces the likelihood of you doing one of these numbers, you know, where you cut your thumb open as it goes back in. Take it out here, pull it all the way back. Safety, I mean, it's just safety. It's not style, it's safety. It's just like putting a pistol away. When I was a kid growing up, the way they used to put pistols away in their holsters, this was the early 1950s, the cowboys, they would spin it around, drop it in the holster. Don't see that happening too much on the street, you know, because the guns were plastic and didn't shoot real bullets. You know, you're going to put your finger in there and spin that thing around. Okay, same with this. So here's what we're going to do. We start out, I push it forward, I clear it, and I aim that point one way or another right at this individual. And from here we go on with the fight. Okay. Now this is very different from maybe what you've practiced. Some of you, anybody practice formal Zen type Iaido sword drawing? It's different. It's different. Zen type Iaido has a different purpose as to why they're doing it. It's a form of precision practice, grace practice, concentration practice. It's a meditation. So there's certain things that you're doing with your body in formal Iai, all right, that's different from the combat application. Much as target shooting is different from jungle fighting. It's for a different purpose. John, why don't you use the blade? We're going to do an unarmed against this blade. So at this point where there's some kind of a confrontation, whoop, his blade's coming out. I want to keep it from coming to get me, so I'm just going to use this as a jam, using my whole body to jam it. I may have a sword myself and have not tuned into the fact that it needs to be used, or I may not choose to use it. So from this point here, when I see that draw coming, I want to go as far as I can to jam this. This is halfway out of the scabbard here. Okay. Before it was all the way out of the scabbard. Okay. Here it's partway out of the scabbard. From there, I can use his blade in the scabbard to do the technique. We switch our alignment. I haven't unsheathed my sword. So from here, I dive forward and bang this forearm, lift up on his blade, turn, and let this come out to where I can then go ahead and make the cut that I need to from here. Now this is not a hesitation kind of move. You got to draw on a pistol. You can't sort of rear back and tackle it. Whoop, from here I've got to jam it. As soon as I know he's drawing, this comes up to where it needs to be here. He's still fighting, so that allows me just to pull out back and forth a little bit. Put it back in his scabbard and let him fall down. Oh, ritual suicide. Now here's how not to do it. Okay, John starts to draw. See how big and round I am? I can't stop him. My bone alignment will not stop that. He'll cut me open. So don't go big and round. If I'm unarmed and he draws, there is a technique like this where I'm big and round, but that's not the one that we're practicing here today. All right, this one you go straight in. You go straight in. The reason I just said that is later on if we do that, we say, well, Hayes said, don't go round, and here he is going round. Different day, different place, different murderer. Right? Straight in, straight in. And his tension is what allows this to go right up into place. Saw around, bang around in there.
look around for the next one who might be coming in from there. So we're going straight in, grab the handle backhanded, force it up. If the blade, my timing is a little bit off, you're drawing and it gets further out. Where we're here, same thing. I've got more blade now to use. I'm just going to pull this away and run into him with that. Or, as a third possibility, he's drawing the sword and it doesn't get all the way out of the scabbard, but almost. I can pull it all the way out and just run back in. So those three will work at with this. Then after we do this, I'm going to show you his defense against me doing this. So we're going to practice that next. Okay, let's do, this is highly unlikely to happen in a fight, so. Okay, so super slow motion. He draws. I jam, come over here, wedge, cut, throw. Okay, that's one. We're going to practice. It's all the way out. Just turn the sword backhanded on him, and you could follow if you want to. And the third, I jam, I'll pull it on out and charge right in. I've got the cutting edge up, so that means I'll keep pressure down on the handle this way so it won't stay as it goes in. Some people like to suggest that if you're hitting them here, you ought to turn it sideways as you go in so that it'll move right between those rib bones, which might be a good suggestion, but anyone who's done any surgery on repairing people who've had things through their rib cages, steering wheel columns, and all kinds of stuff just go through the ribs. So I don't know that this is going to be that much of an advantage over this here when you're just plunging right through all of that tissue. We'll have to check bodies and see that. Okay, everybody got what we're going to do? We're going to draw a pistol on you, and you're in close enough range. And again, look, read, watch, statistically, okay? The majority of, vastly the majority of gunfights that happen, people actually shot in a gunfight, are at what range? Anybody know?
5 to 7 feet.
Yeah, right this same range. The same range. Wouldn't you think with a gun, you figure, well, why not across the room? It sort of narrows the likelihood of my being overpowered with my handgun, but no, statistically, there they are, right in a hallway, 6, 8, whatever feet. So it's close on. Some things never change, right? The technology just evolves. So if somebody's here, they're going to try and grab this, or if they got it inside a jacket, if it's 6 to 8 feet, that's what we're talking about here, right? No sword. John's going to just rip that jacket open and pull it as it, no, it's okay, you don't take that. As it comes out from there, boom, just moving to the side of it. If it's lowered on me, just a little bit of a move. We're talking about that same range, right? 6 to 8 feet. Some things don't change on there. They move in. Now, I don't want to get into the discussion here of all the things that they could have, would have, should have done if they really were drawing. What if a guy has 2 guns? Little secret one under here and all this kind of stuff, because this is a sword fight thing. But I just want to mention to you that the reality doesn't change. There it is. Okay? Handguns, swords. John, why don't you have the sword? So we're looking at the same thing. From this, as he starts to draw, I need to jam that up. Now, remember last night you were doing that little meditation exercise on what I call connection? Same thing here. Same thing here, whether it's knife fighting or fist fighting or whatever. If I'm here, and this is honestly the kind of a confrontation where he feels he's justified in killing me in plain view, and his sword comes out and I go like this, way too late. Okay, could you see? I was waiting, watching his weapon hand to move, and if you're watching the weapon itself, and when it goes to move, too late. It's too late. You got to be watching his intention. We're putting together a translation of an article written by a Japanese instructor for this next issue of Musubi when it comes out. He's talking about Shingan, this seeing with the heart eye, and that this man was putting out that there were 4 important aspects of training for warriorship. The first one was this Shingan, the ability to see and perceive and know what was coming ahead of time. Very important. That was number 1. Number 2, he says, was leg aim, being able to be where you needed to be with the movement. All right, so you've got to be able to respond appropriately. All right, and then strength, All right, is way down on the list. Strength, the ability to be strong. But the first one is recognizing that I have a situation from the beginning where we're here and it's getting heated to where I'm moving as he starts. As he starts. As I feel his intention click in, that's when I'm going to move. And that's why it works out to be so-called perfect. So if I'm watching the physical meat and bones, all right, move, it's too late. It's already too late. I've got to watch that intention. In fact, I might even do something. To tempt that if I'm trying to push it. Okay, or I might say a certain insult, yeah, where he just can't stand that, you know, or laugh derisively, you know, or start to move away, like I'm going to break it, and he's not done, and then he draws his sword. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. Let's do the next step up. If I've got the sword, just a way to look at it. Oh, by the way, these modern martial art belts really are not the best way to carry a sword on your hip, all right, because now it's dangling around down here or whatever you're trying to draw this thing. Right? So the way clothing was worn in the old days was different. This is a modern invention, this kind of a thing here. But actually the belt was in layers here. It was higher up, okay, to where it was held in higher, all right, this way. And in armor days, when they had those thick belts with their armor, they didn't wear it in there anyway. They carried it this way. Okay. Chuck Norris style. They carried it this way. All kinds of minutiae and trivia for you to take home with you. Okay, I'm in here, and we're having this conversation that I finally find intolerable. You know, I go to draw, and he jams me up. What I'm going to do is then back away, cut his hand. And so this is going to be our defense against that jam. Because as soon as I go to draw and he jams, I don't want this hand to grab a hold of my sword like I was doing before. So I want to back up and be able to get it from there. Okay? So if we do it the other angle, I know from here I can cut him. So as I'm drawing, he starts to grab. Come back from there. Come back from there and make the cut. So here's a counter. A counter for that counter. Now there's a defense against this as well, but we're going to just work on this. Here's another one. I start to draw on him, and when I see his arm move, I go ahead and clear the blade that way. So I start to draw, or I just go ahead and clear right away before he can even get his hand on me. As he comes in with his next move, he'll grab hold of the blade there as I move back away from the position. Again, here's what we want to practice. One, as it goes to grab, back up. Out comes the sword, back goes the scabbard, out goes the blade. And putting the sword back, what I want to do is use the fingernails, okay, that have the least amount of skin oil or whatever to slide this thing back. Find the mouth of the sword, mouth of the saya, and get the sword in there, and then I have developed the habit of just keeping my fingers back away as I slide it in, so I can watch this person here all the way and not have to be concerned with accidentally cutting my hand. Different schools have different ways of teaching that. Cutting as we back up. Could be what happens is, as he comes in and I'm backing up, he lunges in, and now I can't get this out at all. It's so close. It's so close. Got his jacket. Okay, you could do that technique here. And cut it. Now, I'm not going to presume to tell you all to get the jacket caught. I remember Hatsumi Sensei used to do that all the time when I was first studying in Japan. Some wild, fluky thing would happen where all of a sudden, the sword is up inside the guy's jacket like this, just by accident or whatever. And he's caught there, and he's the soke, so he's always got to look good. So he'd come up with some arm break thing like that, and he'd step away, kick this up, and it'd fall over, and then he'd say to all of us, okay, that's one of the secrets. Practice that one. Oh, God, I'm trying to get that in there. I heard this true story, guys, true story. Guy used a cowboy-type belt buckle to defend against the knife stab to the stomach. by accident, the knife hit in there and kind of wedged in the outer edge. He saved his life with this thing. You know, but to teach that as a technique, you know, this is our defense against a knife. If it happens, great. Okay, I go to draw, I'm back here, and he's way in too close. Here, this way, bang. You can't do that. Let this come out from there and position the sword where it needs to be. I'm here, I back up. We're too close, I can't get out of there. I'm afraid he's, or you could grab, or if he doesn't grab, I'm afraid he's gonna hit me. I just start hitting here. If he grabs the handle, hit him with the handle. Let him pull it out. Use your forearm. I can just bring it right over from there. So a third one to where I was too close to get that out, drawn where I needed to be. So one, here, hand is on there, hand is going for that. Just back up, clear your blade. Two, hand starts there, I jump back, clear the blade. Three, hand gets, I'm jumping back, but the hand is on there and they're too crowded. Hit them a couple times with the sword. Pull this off, go way back, and use your arm or forearm to bring this back and over. Everybody got those? Okay, let's do those as a defense against the counter to this draw with each other. And with a wooden sword, just pretend you've got that scabbard, how that would work on there. Okay, I'll float around and coach you a little bit. Okay, so very elementary. Power is coming from my right side and right arm, right? And bone alignment, and this left, of course, is pushing through that way there. So that's why we were leading with the left when we cut. Different kamae, haso no kamae from here. I'm leading with the left as I move in so that when the moment of full power, where I have to really cut through with this comes, my right side, right foot, right extension is slicing right through the target, right side. But when we were practicing this drawing, we had our right side forward rather than the left, okay? Because we've got to aim this at the target. John, if you've got your sword in there. See, for me to do a quick draw from here, I mean, it's preposterous. Now I've got to have it aiming at him where I can make my cut. That way there. Right? Now there are trick draws where you can bring it around from the side and up and over and cut in, but you know, that's like the Lone Ranger spinning that thing and putting it into his holster. Those are just sort of for fun or for our dexterity training. So again, right side forward for the draw, left side forward for this plunging action. And even that isn't always the rule. There is such a thing as a gyaku or a reverse kamae. There's a reverse one in here. Seigan, reverse version of every one of these techniques that we do. Reversing the action from that. But that's getting pretty out there with the technique. Second thing that was happening, let's demo what we were talking about earlier. That was a good point you made. If the jam angle gets off a little bit, let's do it kind of this way so everybody can see. I'm starting to draw. Oh, he comes in, and look at this. Both hands have a hold of me here, and he's in this line where my whole forearm is pinned down. Now, to try and hit him with the sword isn't going to work. He's got me locked here, so we would need a fourth technique, where I come up and I can use the sword as a capture device here. And then my legs actually force this down. If I need to, I can still clear the scabbard, okay, and come in here with that. Or more likely, in the ancient, if I put you back, samurai days, they had extra blades. Little ones that were built right into the scabbard, all right, or a small belt dagger that I could use this as the way to hold them down and brought out the smaller blade and finished off. So there's a fourth thing that could happen in the fight. You see what we did here? I was totally immobilized by both hands. So I just let this handle come over and I rolled it in towards me here. Now the irony is, the more strength my attacker has, the more likely they will go down. What I don't want to have him do is lighten up his grip. Uh-oh, now I've lost it and he's come back. So I want it, in that case, the stronger they are, the better, ironically. But this is ninjutsu, so everything's backwards with it. So you can see how we can use that as a capture technique from here. Right? So there's always an answer. There's always an answer somehow. always an answer. It has to do with your, what's in this musubi issue, this eye, to be able to tell what's happening by the position the person's in, the way they're moving in on you. You have an idea of what's in store, the way their eyes are moving, the way they're breathing, all of that stuff. You just get used to it. You have experiences and you pay attention. Right? You have experience and you pay attention. Developing that eye. Okay, let's do one more. This is a variation on a historical sword kata. And it's unarmed against a sword, a couple of swords we're going to do here. That's pretty wild, but it might be a fun one for us to end up with. Maybe everybody back up a little bit. We have a couple of sword people. And John, why don't you be here? Sean, if you're there. Where these people already have their swords out. Okay, we'll put this in the Seigan we were using before, and I'm the espionage agent that made the mistake of getting caught, let's say, okay, and they're starting to inch in on me. So when I back away from him, I'm now in his sights. When I start getting away from him, now I'm in his sights here. Right? And so what they're trying to do is close in so that I have less and less options that way. Okay? So we'll start that technique out. From position, I'm here. As they start closing in, the moment I'm looking at Sean, I get stabbed from here. So this is the attack, just a lunge forward with the right, you're stabbing right to the torso. Okay, so I'm moving here this way, stab comes in, I want to move to the outside, hit this. Now at this point, he's going to come in, of course, and back up his buddy and slice me open down the center. All right, so we'll watch that time. I'm stabbed. So now we're able to engage. This man's still in the fight here. So we'll take him down with that. Okay, so get a training partner. And go here's what's happening. As I'm stabbed, I'm falling over. In fact, I might actually fall to the ground. And as I'm up, aiming with his sword at this next man. Now, timing is important on this. Don't do it like in the movies. Where here I am working out on this guy and he's waiting, and I finally throw him, and then he charges. Anybody see that in the movie before? Dumb. Okay, but let's be honest. He's ready to cut me. He's watching. He doesn't know what I have. You know, I might have a shuriken in my hand that I'll throw. So he's watching and waiting. He's ready to go. He's maybe kind of inching in on me. All of a sudden, boom, this guy attacks. Wow, we're here now, he's attacking me. So there'll be that split second, and then as he jumps into action, he's coming to get me with this. Boom. And then as this cut comes in here, I'm using that wrist twist to make my multiple cuts across throat and wrist. Let's do it very slowly. And again, just have fun with this. It's pretty wild. Some of you are new to the sword, so this is preposterous. Taking diving lessons, okay, your first lesson. You go out there and we put you up on the 20-meter board. The pool is about that big down there.
Tie your hands and feet.
Tie your hands and feet. Plastic bag over your head. I'm gut stabbed here, just falling to the side. I'm punching his right hand here, banging on that. And as I punch, by now, his buddy knows what's going on. He's coming to get me. So I just let this do the work. Oh, he fell down here. That's great. I come in here. But let's say John didn't fall down yet. He's trying to kill his buddy. I want to grab a hold. Raise your hand up. Grab a hold of the lateral side of this right hand and let him cut at me with this. And that's what lets him fall down. Here's what I'm not doing later on when you're out there. I'm not forcing him to the ground, because if I go to force him to the ground, he jumps in this direction. And he's got me. So from here, I wait for him to cut me. As he cuts me, I capture that movement, and I'm able to do it. This is a real subtle thing. Watch for it. So you're not trying to manhandle this person to the ground with strength. Again, one. Let's change our angle. John, you're here. Sean, you're up here. Now you want to be kind of careful as you do that one. Oh,
Curly and Larry.
Is that the key eye that goes with that? You have to move. We're here. I'm falling to the side. Might even end up on my knee. It's possible. This person comes in. I could even end up on my knee. Hit him and come up. Get around behind him. Aiming this sword. As he starts to cut me, I back up again. That's what throws him to the ground. Right? And as he fell on the ground, I just allowed my sword to go across his neck and wrist from there. Now, be very, very careful. Very, very careful, okay? Hatsumi Sensei was doing a technique. John, once you have a sword, I can't do this. I couldn't do this against a live sword. I'm working on it, okay? But Sensei has a few years advantage on him. And this guy came in with a sword here, and Sensei did this. And then what it looked like was he wrestled with him and got the sword over here and cut him, and this guy fell down, and Sensei was still standing like this. You know, and the crowd was absolutely bored by this because the Horando, Juban Lee group had been out before them, and they were whirling around and looked wild. And what happened was, as this sword came down, immediately this one turned to take his head off, which would have been the natural thing to do in the fight. And as the sword came up to take the head, Sensei just banged him with his shoulder, and the guy cut his own neck with this. And Sensei's still standing around like this. To me, this was the most amazing martial art demo I'd ever seen in my life, because here's this guy who barely even moved and got this guy to kill himself. I like this approaching this Darth Vader technique. I'm just there, speechless. To be truthful, a lot of my own fellow training people didn't even get the technique. I'm watching this, and the crowd is going stuff like, well, gosh, if that had been me, I would have cut him with the sword. Yes, you idiots! I wanted to say that. That's what he did, and that's how it, but I didn't say that because the crowd didn't want to hear that from me. They wanted to see, you know, feet of fury flying around. So, interesting, huh? The higher up we go, the more subtle it gets. That's what convinced me this is an authentic warrior tradition. This isn't a thing for little boys who want to pretend that they're big, tough men. This is for people who are absolutely dangerous. So dangerous, they don't even have to act dangerous. Those are the most dangerous ones you could find in there. Okay. This is Sunday. Here's the sermon. All right? And I've just stolen 5 minutes of your lunch period here. But anyway, think about that when you're doing these kind of kata, this kind of training. This is a variation we did on a historical kata called Shingan. John has a sword. I mean, formally practiced, it's a one-on-one. As he's aiming this, and he would say, John, from here, as he leaps through, I'm falling here. Banging from there, coming up, and as I move into position, I'll do it carefully because the stage is there, I throw him down onto the ground with this technique. Shingan kata from the Gyoko family tradition in here. It's a formal kata. We added an extra guy, and we added an extra action on the end up there, just so that you can see a kata is a beginning point. You know, it's like a mold, or it's like a little wire form that you would then put clay on to make the sculpture, and it can become an abstract or a realistic or whatever. The kata is like that form, that mold that begins, and then you adapt it to your own self. Okay, we're going to do some unarmed fighting against multiple attackers after lunch.